Hey there, YouTube, Rumble. This is Stampede Valkyrie coming back at you again as taking a look at a bar I've had sitting in the back on my to-do pile for a while. I figured I'd probably just finally give it a once-over and see what worked, see what didn't. Definitely needs a cleaning. There's a lot of haze on these domes. Domes aren't in bad shape, but there's a lot of haze on them. Maybe some cutting compound would probably take a cart and go from there. What this is a brand that I'm familiar with, but not a bar that I'm very familiar with. This is a Star, I want to say a Saber. Oh, actually, no, this would be the on the side it says Interceptor. But Star Signal and Lantern Corporation, which actually was ultimately, I think, acquired SVP as well, but bar itself is not real common near me. I don't really know a whole lot about them, so maybe somebody else can chime in and kind of give me a little bit of a heads up on this here. But I figured I'd take one out as I have two of these bars, and both of them are exactly the same. The one is just one that I'm looking at here, and then I have another one. And honestly, what I'm probably going to do with these guys is probably move on them. This is not really something I'm into. But if you take a look, if you can see that, it gives you the model number, which is 8420 something. That, of course, that wire is like literally right in the way. And then it's listed as special, whatever that means. But this one actually comes from Eastern Ohio, Western PA, Eastern Ohio area. Not a bad setup. I mean, you've got, what, two rotators on this side and what appears to be some sort of weird cascading mirror. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be cascading obviously this way and then out, as there's nothing back here. And then this one also comes across, you've got two and then another with that kind of weird cascading mirror again, where this comes in and then this is reflecting that way, and then this is probably just a parallel to push that way. Nothing actually here other than the rotator, just to talk about it. But it is interesting because it's got these off angle, if you want to call these takedown lights or additionals to the alleys. It does have an alley, as you can see, but it has these off angle lights that Code 3 would put sweeps in here for intersection sweeps. Maybe this is an intersection light as well. Then the other nice thing about this is, besides the rotators, is it's got, two, another two, and two. So you're looking at with 6 rotators. It has flasher here, a flasher here, 2 sets of takedowns in the front, and then another off-center, like intersection light, so on and so forth. I think this one here is probably a blown bulb, as I can't get that one to work as we were playing around with this. And then coming around the back, you can see 2 more flashers. One here, one here. This very, very much reminds me of the Federal Signal Vista bars. Just the whole surfboard style shape. It is a dual layer bar, so in other words, it does have 2 layers of warning, similar to your MX series bars. And it doesn't look like it's a bad bar. I honestly think that this is probably a fairly usable bar, even in its current state. Everything does, minus that one intersection light, does work, and I'll walk through that now. But I just wanted to take a quick video of it, as I have 2 of these, and anybody's interested in these lights, somebody let me know, because honestly, I'm not really sure if I'm going to keep them or not. They are neat. I figured I'd just at least document them. And then, pardon my shaky cam, I figured I'd just go through and talk about them. So let's start with some power on tests. I'll do this with one hand as much as I can, and then we'll walk through and go from there. So first things first, let's take a look at some of the auxiliary features. So first things first, let's deal with the takedowns here. And a nice little side note here is, obviously in the world of video editing, is I just had a little bit of an issue with this light. Always good thing to fuse your stuff. Is just blew a fuse. I could have probably done a lot worse, as there was a break in the power cord that I did not pay attention to or did not take notice of. So just another friendly PSA. Make sure whenever you're playing with this stuff, make sure your lines are fused. Had that not been fused, that might have been a whole nother video coming at you. So here we go. First thing, takedowns. Bear with me a moment. Gotta reach over and hit that switch, and boom, there we go. Pretty basic. There are 2 takedowns, like I said before, in the front of the light. Pretty much just independent circuit underneath the centerpiece there. Kind of interesting. Again, not really anything special compared to any other lights out there, but interesting little option that's installed on here. So moving on here, let's see if we can work with the next option. All right, function test number 2 here. This should be the flashers. Shaky cam galore. There we go. So we got two front-facing flashers, and if I don't kill myself moving around, we'll come around to the back, and you'll see rear-facing. I've got two rear-facing flashers, also blue on the secondary level. So, interesting. Again, this is a neat bar. I mean, just waxing poetica here, if you want me to go into this. I honestly think that this brand, this usable, very usable bar. I don't think that this bar is junk, but this is definitely a lower tier than, say, Federal or even Code 3 or Wheelin. I think that this is basically your value brand bar. It's kind of obvious when you start taking a look at it and how the stuff's set up on the inside. Doesn't mean it's junk. It's definitely not junk. But this is definitely one of your cheaper options. You can kind of tell as I go through this here. But there's probably a dedicated following to these bars, much as there's a dedicated following to anything. So, not trying to insult anybody on that one. It's just my opinion. So, let's move on to the next one. So, we got the flashers. Let's see what else I can get working. All right, so moving on this, the next option are these front, I'm going to call them intersection lights. They're, with a lack of a better term, and there's only one on there because I believe the bulb on the one is actually blown. The interesting thing about these lights, in my opinion, is that I think these are pretty effective. They are sitting at a, I'm going to say roughly 45-degree angle center or from straight front. It kind of angles it out at about 45 degrees angle, and that would be for like off-axis warning, so on and so forth. I think it's actually a pretty good idea. I mean, other than the fact that it's just a fixed light, and you can see, I'm going to go to this one because this is the one that's lit up. You can see what I mean by it's about 45 degrees, give or take, maybe a little bit less, off center from, say, the front of the bar. So if we were looking at the back, right, and that's straight on, you can kind of see what I mean by how it sticks out. Now the other one here is not on, and again, I think the bulb on this one is blown. I'd have to take it out and take a look at it. An easy fix. They're both powered on right now, but only one seems to be working. But on that note, without getting too far into the weeds, really not a bad. Interesting that, I mean, I'm used to seeing these things move. So if Code 3 had the off alley or the alley sweeps, or not the off alley, the intersection sweeps, Federal had the dyno rays. They did the same thing in the corners, so it would actually sit and get your off warning. I mean, a smart idea. I mean, if anything, you could use these for scene lighting, but to be honest with you, for anything, I could see them being more effective if they actually did something other than just stayed on, unless you were dealing with any sort of scene lighting. These, in conjunction with the front takedowns, probably pretty good at lighting the area up, but I'm not going to say terribly great either. But again, more waxing poetica. Let's move on. All right, next option, not that you can really see that they're turned on from here, but are the alleys. Again, this is really no different than the one that's off center. You just have your driver's side and then obviously your passenger side alley as we come over here, and they're both working, which is actually pretty basic. I mean, this is no different from any other alley type light, as effective or ineffective as whatever you want to call them. I know a lot of the newer bars, they put on like a pursuit mode and you can get them to flash. That might be neat if you put this on a flasher. But let's go ahead. I think I've gone through the main sub functions other than the rotators. Let's get the rotators lit up here. So let me get situated back, and let's work through those circuits too. All right, so now we're like 8 minutes into this. Let's go with the main event, the rotators. Now, let's go. There we go, switch box. You can see we've got 6 rotators there. Outer rotators appear to be fast. Center rotators on the inside appear to be a little bit slower. And then the very, very center rotators, again, appear to be fast. I do like the color combination here with the red, blue, and then the blue centers. It's actually not a bad light. I mean, if the dome was cleaned up a little bit more, if I spent some time polishing the dome, this probably would be a pretty good wall hanger, honestly. This is to be an interesting bar as a wall hanger. But we know all the functions work. Let me see if I can get the flashers in on this, and I'll get some video with the flashers going and give you a 360 so you can kind of see what the whole thing looks like lit up. So still not disappointed on this. It's just interesting. This is outside my wheelhouse in regards to lights that I typically follow. Star is not one of the ones that's usually on my pad or on my horizons here. But since I have 2 of them, I figured I'd talk about them. So let's go ahead and stop this here and get the flashers going. All right, lastly, what everybody's been waiting for. Give it the old team try. flashers, rotators, the whole 9 yards. This is what you'd see. Again, not a bad looking light. Like, I know a lot of commentary, but give it to 360. Walk around, see the rear rotators. 2 rear blue flashers. Definitely see the mirrors at this stage of what they're doing. That's pretty interesting. And then come back around to the front. Again, this definitely needs other than a bulb being out, it definitely needs, it's pretty quiet too, it definitely needs a polish. Nothing impossible. No cracks or deformations that I see. Just needs a good polish. So this would be a pretty solid hanger or display bar if somebody knows somebody locally that ran these. But yeah, very quiet. And that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. You guys have a good weekend.